In any textile, the way the threads interlace is quite specific. Think of a carpet or a tweed or your bed sheets, for example. In the past, the way the textiles were structured were culturally specific. Our research shows that in Italy and Greece, textiles were preferred that were made in a very particular way. So while in Italy, the preference was for diagonal types of textiles, what we call twills, and here's one example of a twill. In Greece, we have a very different aesthetic preference, where they're using tabby, the simplest type of textile, which also allows them to create tapestries and figural decorations. By using electron scanning microscope, we're able to look at the microstructure of the fiber imprint in the mineralized textile. And in this particular instance, it allows us to identify it as sheep wool, thanks to the scales that are preserved in the imprint of the fiber. In specific environmental conditions, actual fibers may survive, and then we can also identify their nature. In this case, we are dealing with plant fiber. Then that we can tell by looking at specific diagnostic features, such as what we call dislocations, in this instance in the fibers that are most likely flax. Differences are already well established by the Iron Age, which is the early first millennium BC, which indicates that there's a development of technology that's happening already in the preceding millennium. And in fact, we see close connections between the Italian textile culture and Central Europe, what in Iron Age is known as the Hallstatt culture, typically represented in the modern day Austria and Slovenia, whereas the Greek types of textiles are already well established not only in Greece, but also in the ancient Near East, the modern day areas of countries such as Turkey, Syria, Iran, Iraq, and the surrounding regions. Despite the fact that during the first millennium BC, Italy and Greece had quite close connections, our research is the first to show these fundamental differences in textile technology between the two regions. Curiously, by the middle of the first millennium BC, Greek way of making textiles, this tabby textile culture, arrives to Italy with the Greek colonies that are being established in southern Italy in particular. And by the Roman period, in fact, the Greek way of making textiles takes over and twills practically disappear. The next question for us to answer is why?